Dear listeners, first and foremost, we would like to state clearly that we are not against the followers of Muhammad, who are actually the first and worst victims of the cult of Muhammadan Islam, but we are, without a shadow of a doubt, against the teachings of Muhammad's Quran. Please bear in mind that none of the followers of Muhammad are born evil, but almost all of them are brainwashed by the Quran that turns them into hate-mongering, warmongering, racist, and unthinking individuals. We have chosen the male followers of Muhammad only because they are the perfect replicas, clones of Muhammad. They have had no choice in the matter, since they have been programmed and indoctrinated by their religious leaders to believe that Muhammad was the most perfect male being that has ever walked the surface of this earth. Hence, all his male followers must emulate his sunnah, that is, his deeds, behavior, thoughts, and sayings. We have purposefully ignored the female followers of Muhammad, since Muhammad and his cloned male followers consider them as inferior beings, not higher in intellect than domestic animals, harbingers of evil thoughts, seducers of men, as well as constituting the largest number of the dwellers of hell for being disobedient to their husbands. We do not say these things to insult or out of malice to them, but because this was and is exactly how Muhammad and his male followers perceive them, and the hadiths are replete with stories that are insulting, humiliating, outrageous, and threatening towards all the females of the human species. The male followers of Muhammad use the Quran and hadiths to enslave, terrorize, subjugate, and control the body, spirit, and intellect of their females. We believe, without any reservations, that the salvation of Muhammadan Islam resides in the enfranchisement and liberation of their female believers. Since we support wholeheartedly the enlightenment and empowerment of all the female followers of Muhammad, we cannot include them as carrying the same characteristics as the males. It is a fact that the male followers of Muhammad have to live in a warped and unreal twilight zone of an intellectually and emotionally dysfunctional world of denial, denial, denial. Because the moment they agree with any of our observations or statements, that would be the very beginning of the disintegration of their whole belief system. Our audience should be aware of the following characteristics of the male followers of Muhammad, irrespective of nationality, race, color, or culture. They exhibit an obscene degree of hypocrisy, mendacity, and institutionalized racism. These are compounded with a pathological and depraved indifference to facts, reality, mercy, compassion, logic, morality, justice, knowledge, religion, veracity, language, and loyalty. Their perverted view of unbelievers, 80% of humanity or 5.5 billion human beings, is based entirely on the enormous number of verses in the Quran and Sunnah that are hate-mongering, warmongering, discriminatory, mendacious, and vile, that permeate their chapters. Those unbelievers are, without exception, all Christians, all Buddhists, all Hindus, all Sikhs, all Jews, all animists, etc. Not a single one of these male Muhammadan Muslims can ever counter any statement or observation made in this series about the Quran or Hadiths, using logic or knowledge, but only ignoramus, emotional, and outrageous outbursts of unrestrained anger at being incapable of disproving any of our conclusions. They are the only followers in the whole world of a cult belief system that invariably show their resentment by holding their holy book, the Quran, in one hand and weapons of death and destruction in the other, while screaming the terror verse of Allahu Akbar. They are masters at the art of denial, and the best in the world for blaming all others for their own misfortunes, ignorance, shortcomings, and stupidity. Their hatred of the Jews especially is as intense, as cowardly and lopsided as that of the Nazis, whom they make every effort to emulate, in spite of the fact that there are over 1.3 billion followers of Muhammad against only a tiny 13 million Jews worldwide. They are willing to commit suicide only because they actually believe, in their warped, perverted, and indoctrinated mind, that they will end up having unlimited sexual, sensual, and carnal pleasures with 72 virgins after death, the very same pleasures that they are denied in real life on earth. No matter how many facts are shown to them based entirely on the Arabic language and their own books, they would block all this evidence and recede into the abyss of mendacity, of denial, and the mirage of alleged past glories and fantasies. In short, they have mastered the art of intellectual, theological, and political masturbation. Let us now share with you a few examples about these characteristics, some of which may overlap. Hypocrisy. They demand justice and equality under the law in the Western democracies, but they deny any of them in their own Muhammadan Muslim states to all so-called unbelievers. Mendacity. They claim that the Quran was a divine revelation, when in fact every biblical reference therein contradicts the Hebrew Bible and the New Testament. Institutionalized racism. It is a fact that they hate and attack all those who do not believe as they do. 80% of humanity, as well as they blatantly discriminate against their own believing females. Indifference to facts and reality. No matter how much one can prove to them based entirely on the Arabic language of the Quran, Hadith, and their books. The contradictions between the Quran and the Bible, they declare that the Jews and Christians had perverted these books, while at the same time they exhaustively quote from these same books, and the Quran uses them as witnesses to its own veracity. Moreover, although they watch daily on their TV regarding the depraved behavior of other followers of Muhammad around the world, such as suicide bombings, butcherings, etc., they will deny all and everything. Indifference to mercy and compassion. The world watches aghast and in terror the bestial acts committed in the name of Allah, not only against unbelievers, but also against other Muhammadan Muslims of a different sect or political affiliation. Indifference to morality and justice. Their Sharia laws discriminate against not only unbelievers, but also against all the female followers of Muhammad, as well as other sects of Muhammadan Islam. Indifference to knowledge and religion. They deliberately destroy the temples and objects of reverence that belong not only to unbelievers, but even to the shrines of other sects of Muhammadan Islam, and teach their children that the earth is flat and that Muhammadan Islam is the only true religion. Indifference to language. They deliberately deceive and mislead the unwary, and those who do not understand the Arabic language, that Islam means peace, which is not true, since it only means submission. That Allah is God, when in fact Allah is not God but the name of the supreme pagan rock god of the Quraysh tribe in Mecca long before Muhammad and his Quran. Indifference to veracity and loyalty. No true follower of Muhammad can ever be loyal to any state which is not a Muhammadan Muslim state. The Quran, in perfectly clear and unambiguous Arabic, forbids the followers of Muhammad to befriend Jews, Christians, and all unbelievers or be under their control. The male followers of Muhammad who have found security, freedom, and financial success by escaping from their own God-forsaken countries now do their very best to undermine the very states that have given them citizenship, to pull them down into the abyss and dark ages of Muhammadan Islam. To understand this total illogic, our listeners must remember the following. A belief is not merely an idea that the mind possesses. It is, in fact, an idea that totally possesses the mind. The male followers of Muhammad win their arguments only through terror. Muhammad did the same in his days when he had anyone criticizing him murdered. We believe that it is better to die once a free human being than to live an eternity as a slave. We would like our listeners to ponder the above issues and use them as means to counter the lies and deceptions perpetrated by the followers of Muhammad against all those who are ignorant of the facts. We are grateful to all of you who listen to our series, to those who subscribe, and to those who spread the word about it. We need your support and comments so that those who are against us realize that it is wake-up time about the facts regarding the cult belief system of Muhammadan Islam, and that they cannot anymore fool or terrorize all the people of the world.